him?
I'm Jonathan Hyman. Nice to meet you. Who you got with you?
I'm her daughter, Marie.
Hi, Marie.
And that's her grandson, Elijah.
Hi, Elijah. All right. Well, so you kind of let this sink in for the last week since Dr. Slobodov did the biopsy.
Sort of.
But this is a small but potentially aggressive tumor of the left kidney. There are two main types of kidney tumors. I'm sure you've heard this before, but the type that we see most often lives in the meat of the kidney, and we can slice that out and leave the kidney alone, and those typically don't come back. They can be aggressive, but they respond very well to just partial removal. The one that you have is not that. It lives in the lining of the kidney on the inside, and because Dr. Slobodov could see it with the scope. And these are almost like a bladder cancer that lives in your kidney. And they don't respond very well just to removing the tumor. They tend to come back. They have a high rate of spread, and they require full removal of the kidney, the tube going all the way down to the bladder, and even a little piece of the bladder in order to keep it from coming back, as well as removal of the lymph nodes in the area because to make sure that none of it has spread. And so it's quite a bit more involved, and it also responds well to chemotherapy. It's a small tumor, and if I was going to skip chemotherapy, this would be one that I would say, okay, probably fine. But the only problem is that down the road, with only one kidney, it's unlikely that you would be able to get a full course of chemotherapy because your one kidney probably wouldn't be able to handle the drug. So for that reason, we're a little bit aggressive about front-loading the chemotherapy. And if you said to me, I want the best chance to make sure this never comes back, I'd be then in that case in favor of saying, well, you might want to do a course of chemo first and then do it. Now, if you wanted to avoid chemotherapy and you said, well, let's just get this puppy out of there as soon as we can, I can also do that, and I think it's reasonable to do for you. So it sounds like you and Alec had already had that conversation somewhat, and you want to go ahead and remove the kidney. Is that correct?
She's a little hard of hearing, so
yeah.
Plus there's I don't know.
I understand.
So basically what he's saying is that the best chance is to take the kidney out. He would suggest to do chemo and then take it out. But if you don't want to do chemo and you just want to take it out and be done with it, then he would agree that that's a good option. But if you get cancer, if it comes in your bladder or wherever, you probably will not have a chance to do chemo because you will only have one kidney, and your body won't be able to take it. Right. Like, you just won't be able to handle it. So he just wants to make sure that you understand that if
you're the best to have chemo too.
It's hard to say. It's more of a how aggressive do you want to be. If you were like, let's do everything we can, it would include chemo first. But it's hard to say that it's not like a ton better, maybe 5% decreased risk of recurrence. That's about the best I can tell you.
That's not 5% is so low. I mean, I would just take out the kidney. But here's the problem is she's basically been living in Mexico like the majority of the time, and her husband, my dad, my stepfather, his sister, his aunt lived across the street, and she had cancer, breast cancer, had a lump. She had a double mastectomy, and then within months they said it had spread to her brain, and within months she was dead. And they were doing chemo, and then they were doing like massive radiation, and she's still like, so she watched her deteriorate for like, you know, and how fast it, so she just does
Well,
not.
my nephew too, she just died not long
Yeah, but
ago.
you weren't there. That's my point. You watched
Yeah, I
my
watched
aunt
people
like,
have the chemo and they
Yeah.
go really bad and
That's
they die
very
within 6 months because
disappointing.
of the chemo. Then I don't care to die really. I mean, I lived long enough. This is my last grandson. I
Sure.
have a great granddaughter. And I'm 7 years old, and I took care of myself most, you know,
Well,
with
if we
food and everything. And so, and I got this, and I'm not really scared of anything. It's just that I don't want to die like
suffering
for them.
like
you know,
that.
I want
Yeah.
to die normal. You know,
yeah.
like everybody else want to do that. But if
I
it
mean,
goes to a
that she
point
suffered terribly. I was there. Like, she suffered terribly. It was awful. It was probably the worst thing I'd ever seen. She couldn't. Her feet, like, she couldn't walk. Like, it was. I don't even know how to like explain it. It was just the most
my
awful
grandmother,
thing to watch.
I saw my grandmother too, and she had breast cancer, and it spread out because she never told them they had a lump in
Yeah, hers went to
And,
bone cancer.
it. She was in the hospital ripping her whole clothes off and everything because she was in pain, and she died in here in Oklahoma. And so I have experience of people that have cancer, and I also work in a nursing home where they bring people with cancer, they cut their leg off or whatever, and I have so much experience about people that have chemo.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like I don't want to have suffered more than I have suffered.
Those two references were like late 70s, early 80s, so I don't know that those are actually applicable right now. But my great aunt who passed, that was just like 2 years ago. So it's that, you know, that was quite shocking to just watch how fast and how terrible it was. So I get where she's at, where she's just like, I'm not doing chemo.
Yeah.
And I've been suffering for the last 2.5 years, almost 3, with the same thing, pain and infections and this and that, and nobody ever knew what
And
was
everyone's
wrong with me.
just saying, well, we know it's not cancer, we know it's not this,
I mean,
but a little bit of blood, no big deal.
Like in
And we're just
Miami,
like, what?
the doctor,
This has been happening for 2 years now, and it's just so
over
confusing.
there in Miami, the doctor just as well. I had the bag
Yeah.
with blood,
Mm-hmm.
and he just said, well, we don't know what to do with you. We're gonna have to discharge you because we don't know what you have. And I was bleeding so hard and have kind of blood clot, and you know, and since that I've been going down and down and down and down.
Getting worse and worse.
I've been seeing so many doctors, so many pills and all that stuff, and I'm kind of tired of suffering, you know.
She
Well,
just
let's
wants to be
just
better.
get it out and be done with it.
Yeah, let's just take it out. Just take it out.
It is early stage, to the best we can tell. We'll find out more when we remove it and look at the whole tumor. It's small-ish, and very likely you won't have a need for chemo. So I think it's okay to skip. I just don't ever want anyone to say to me, well, you never told me that was an option, because that's kind of sad. So,
Yeah.
but I can do this on January the 4th in the morning at the OU hospital. Would that work?
Yeah.
Okay, we would do it laparoscopically through some small incisions. I would remove the kidney, the entire ureter tube, and part of the bladder, a small hole in the bladder. Because there's a hole in the bladder, it would require a catheter to allow it to heal for 2 weeks.
Oh gosh.
You'd have to wear a catheter, and then we would take it out and you'd pee normal after that. And then afterward, we would need to look into your bladder about every 3 months to make sure it didn't come back, because if it comes back it can come back actually in the bladder.
Okay.
And then we'll do scans to make sure it doesn't come back as well. And we'll do that for a couple of years. And then once you're a couple of years out and there's no recurrences, good to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I just want to ask you, I asked him,
Mhm.
when you're in there taking out the kidney and everything,
Yeah.
can you check the bladder mesh and around, like, to see, like, that it's intact and it's
Yeah.
not? Because I promise, as all the research I'm doing and all
Uh-huh.
the stuff that's been happening is, and all of this started around the time she got the bladder mesh.
Yeah.
Like, right after she was supposedly recovered and she could go back to having sex, like, they couldn't. And it's escalated from there to the point where her husband left.
Yeah, we are going to be operating in that area.
Okay.
Okay, so we will see if there's a problem. We will likely see it now. That is a common problem with the mesh, is pain.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not be at all related to the tumor in the kidney, but if there's
I just feel like it's like a bit gradually like gotten worse to where now she has cancer. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
and I was telling him that I read at least 5 articles where they're linking because of the infections and the inflammation, and then all of a sudden the person ends up with that same exact kidney cancer.
Mhm.
So I'm just like,
How long ago was the mesh?
I think 2012
5 years.
ish.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. It's not something that
Since
we're
I
really.
had that, that's how it started that. I
Mhm.
mean, it started with pain and pain and pain, and all of a sudden,
And like
went
infection
all
after
over it.
infection
Uh-huh.
and discharge and all like smells, and it's just like progressively gotten worse, and now we're at cancer, and I'm just like, whoa. And then I read those articles and I'm like, see, it could be. So that's why I want to kind of stress that I would really like if we could check and see if the mesh is intact or if it's causing any problems. If you can see it, I don't know that part I don't get, but
I'll give you a full report.
thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is sign up for the surgery. We're going to reserve the OR on the day. We're going to sign some paperwork. I will have you see one of our anesthesiologists prior, so that before going to sleep, they've at least talked to you about the surgery and what it'll take to go to sleep at that time. Probably draw some blood. And on the day of, nothing to eat or drink that morning. Do you take any pills, blood thinners at all?
Blood pressure
Just blood pressure?
and she's not the thyroid.
the what?
The blood pressure pill, and what's the other one? She's on 2 different blood pressure pills, and I want to say thyroid, but she took her off of that thyroid pill.
It's one that starts with an M.
Metoprolol?
More.
Yeah, that's a blood pressure. She's got 2 blood pressures,
I have
and
a.
I forget what the other one is. They were supposed to be faxing over her.
Yeah,
Her
we
medical.
can take a look at
Okay,
it.
yeah, I can't ever remember. I think it's love something.
Blood pressure is metoprolol.
don't
That's no big deal.
Okay.
But we'll get you all signed up, talk to the anesthesiologist, and I will see you all the morning of the 4th.
The 4th. Okay.
Okay. Oh, one thing.
Mommy.
We do need to get a chest X-ray
Okay.
because that's one area Dr. Slobodoff got the CT here, but he didn't get any pictures of this, and we would need to look to make sure there was nothing in your lungs.
Okay.
I don't think there will be, but we want to know.
Okay.
Alrighty?
All right. Thank you so much.
Good meeting you.
You too.
Thanks for coming in. We'll take care of you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. What happened? I don't know.